green morning, green afternoon, green evening, wherever you are world over, in different continents, in different time zones, in different arenas, in different wellness condition, different health condition, different context, different set of minds. And of course, with health, with wellness is also a couple of other things which are there in the ecosystem with us: education, skills, competencies, our day-to-day life, our economic situation, all that we have to take into consideration, because after all, we as a human being living in this world, there is a definite purpose of ours coming on this particular planet. So ladies and gentlemen, on the eve of the World Teachers Day, because tomorrow, 5th of October, is World Teachers Day by United Nations, and the agenda which they have given and the theme what they have given for tomorrow, that is teachers at the heart of education recovery. In that context, we are having a curtain raiser today, and it's indeed a great privilege that this evening we have been joined by very, very eminent, distinguished guest, Shri DILIP Mukherjee. I personally feel I had only one interaction with him, that too on telephone. I did not see him earlier, rubaru, but whatever I could feel and whatever I could get connected with him, he's a living legend. He's a living encyclopedia. He's a living reformer. He's a living, the visionary who really wants to bring a change in education ecosystem, to revive it, to bring it back from its unconsciousness, to revitalize anything, whatever we want to use the term. But he's a person who is deeply emotionally, practically, spiritually, consciously taking a lot of steps how to improve the education ecosystem. I'm not talking only in the context of India, because tomorrow is a World Teachers Day. So our chamber is proud that we are connected with our brothers and sisters across the globe. There are 31.4 million Indians abroad. Since 1994, we are here. I left Ministry of Tourism, Government of India in the last month of 93, and 94, I got into the saddle of this particular responsibility. That's Indian diaspora linkages with India for medical tourism, cinematic tourism, entertainment tourism, film-induced tourism, education, whatever we talk about, all that the human development we have been talking quite a bit. During this pandemic, doctors, nurses, paramedical people, doing great job, great service. At the same time, when 1.65 billion children being away from schools, colleges, and universities, I think our teachers, our educators, salute to you, salutations to you. You have done a remarkable, whatever limited facilities you had, in spite of all that challenges, you tried your level best to reach out. Every year in month of January, we hold an annual convention when from 149 countries, we get the people across for our annual convention of the chamber. This year, we had the digital conference. We had about 6,000 delegates to be accommodated in one day, right from morning 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. in 12 hours. So ladies and gentlemen, I still recall 1994, we started that journey. And in 2003, then the Honorable Prime Minister of India, a great visionary, late Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, he called, different secretaries were there. We all were there on a common platform. And he gave a vision over there. He said, you keep doing what you're doing. Let's increase the volume and increase the base. And let's have Pravasi Bharatiya Divas also on 9th of January, because Mahatma Gandhi ji returned on 9th of January from South Africa to India. I'm a very privileged soldier from Indian Army, having joined the armed forces way back in 1973. When I moved up the ladder, I still recall, I'm the first olive uniform, the green uniform. And as a major, when I moved on deputation to the Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, being the first serving Indian Army officer, it was a great privilege. And we set up with our team, my entire team was with me, and we set up Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management way back in mid-80s. And thereafter, of course, the headquarters being in Gwalior, but thereafter the Goa, the Nellore, the Bhubaneswar, and New Delhi, and a couple of other places, the branches have come up, including in Noida. So it's a great privilege. And at the same time, because I was on deputation from the Indian Army, so one fine day, Adjutant General just summoned me up and called me. He says, Major, we have sent you on a deputation. What are you doing for Indian Army? I said, sir, give me 4 rooms in Bangalore. I can do something in a humble way from the Ministry of Tourism. And it's a privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to share with all of you, Lieutenant General K.M. Seth, Adjutant General, way back in 1988 in the Indian Army. He gave me 4 rooms in the ASC Center, Bangalore. And I learned with a pleasure that today there is a full-fledged Army Institute of Hotel Management and Catering Technology in Bangalore, where more than 2,000 youth are studying. Then we also have from the Armed Forces, DGR, Directorate General Resettlements. We started short-term training programs over there for management. I'm also privileged. The Fiat Siena car had just come to India, and the DG Tourism Government of India, he told me, why don't you take a trip to entire India, organizing All India Tourism Quiz Contest. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 months on road, and you can't imagine just sleeping in one room from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock, rest of the time traveling and visiting all schools and colleges across India. What a beautiful, amazing country we have got. We are privileged that our chamber has got various verticals. We have got MSMEs, we have got education, we have got skills, we have got media entertainment as well. And late Yash Raj Chopra ji, who brought Switzerland on the international tourist map, particularly for India. He shot all his movies over there. So our chairman for media entertainment sector, we are proud of him. He is a cinematographer, director, writer, producer, who brought 20 years with Yash Raj Chopra ji and with Raj Kapoor ji and with GP Sippy ji, lots of contribution. We are also privileged, our chairman, MSME sector, micro, small and medium enterprise, because after all, education has got a purpose. When you get education and skills, what is the outcome? Where are you going? Are you a startup? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you getting employment? Where are you? So Rabindranath ji brought the new vision all together, that education, skills and MSME to be linked together for all of us. Great. Our former president of the chamber, all the way from the Woodbury University, Burbank, 3 years he was in the chair. Now he's the chief patron of the chamber, Professor Satinder Dhiman from the Burbank, California. He gave the new vision, who holds 2 PhDs, one in education and second in Buddhism, and almost about 35 years, and the recipient of the Best Management Professor Award of America. Thereafter, we had gone to Mumbai. We wanted to facilitate production houses, because children, either they want to go to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, or second option they have got, can we be the part of media entertainment industry? So ladies and gentlemen, Chandigarh is the first city in India which opened the Bollywood facilitation cell. I'm proud of Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Way back in 2015, they held the All Secretaries Tourism Government of India meeting in Delhi, when we talked about vocational education, where the hotel management, tourism management, hospitality and everything was being discussed, and also with cinematic tourism and entertainment tourism. And thereafter we went to Mumbai. We discussed with all the production houses over there, and the new curriculum being brought into the school education and higher education as well. We are deeply associated with the Northeast part of India. Last 40 years, my deep emotions are with Northeast, and I still recall with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, just before pandemic, we had a very big function with 400 production houses and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India together, promoting Northeast as a destination for film tourism, cinematic tourism, youth tourism, nature tourism, ecotourism, and everything being brought with closer ASEAN countries, all 10 of them. Janu Barwaji, I'm so grateful to you. You delivered the keynote address right over there. I'm really, really thankful to you. Thanks a lot and very kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, thereafter, we went to Imphal. We went to Manipur. The Honorable Chief Minister released our services export vision document. And there we talked, because just before that, we had the detailed discussion 6 months before with NCTE, National Council for Teacher Education, what we have got in India under the Ministry of earlier HRD and now Education. And the chairperson of the NCT told me that we are having almost 13 lakh teachers being produced every year in India, and only we require 3 lakh in India. 10 lakh is a surplus to us. What to do? Because people are doing B.Ed courses. I'm not going on the quality, but I'm talking on the quantity. So thereby, services exports world over, where the population is aging and people are becoming very aged, those countries require younger generation. They require hand-holding. So why not we should focus on services exports? So with the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, and Services Export Promotion Council, we discussed the whole strategy. Thereafter, we went to Mr. Nipur Rio, the Honorable Chief Minister of Nagaland, and we took the United Nations people over there. It was such a pleasure. We had in Dimapur, United Nations conference, I still recall, and our chamber is proud to be a part of that. When we were discussing with media entertainment, they told, we have got the great difficulty access to Northeast part of India. They say, look, why don't you try and bring some additional flights to Northeast? And we brought the Airport Authority of India and the Ministry of Civil Aviation together on a common platform and strengthening the aviation network in Northeast part of India. And that was something fantastic. I saw complete renovation being done for Guwahati Airport, Imphal Airport, Pasighat getting a flight, that is Kolkata, Guwahati, Pasighat, and similar way, Pakyong Airport coming up in Sikkim. And now I have learned with a pleasure that Itanagar, that is Arunachal Pradesh, next year is going to have its airport functional. Then with General V.K. Singh, in 2016, when he was the Minister for Northeast region, we set up ASEAN Study Center in Shillong. That was in the Nehru campus. It was in ICSR because it was desired by Ministry of External Affairs Government of India that it should be there. That's why in the Nehru campus, it was set up over there. 2018, we had Advantage Assam, where 6,000 delegates together on a common platform on 3rd and 4th of February 2018. Now, why all these events we are talking about? Because these meetings and greetings and eatings and together, there's a lot of deliberation in perspective. When we talk about services sector, now services sector has got about 54 different verticals. But Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India has identified 12 sectors, and education is also a part of services sector. And during the pandemic, your health and wellness, your e-commerce services, all that when we take into consideration, they are also the segment of services sector. Thereafter, we went to Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise. We are proud. We shared quite a bit over there. We discussed with them and we told them, let's focus on tourism and hospitality, media, entertainment, and Finance Minister Sahiba. We are grateful to you on 13th of May 2020 in the 5 strong pillars which Honorable Prime Minister announced for making India self-reliant. You gave a definition, new definition for the MSME sector, where you made a mention that here onward, the services sector will be at par with manufacturing sector. We are thankful to Ministry of MSME for the same. Here is the revised definition. Now come 25th of March 2020 and complete lockdown, we started focusing on education. We brought education skills and Buddha's teaching for today's education ecosystem, Vedanta, that is Vivekananda's teaching, water management strategies, how to have family happiness, ways to resource management, how to live in minimum and while sharing with others, Ayurveda for the global wellness, empowering teachers and the youth, MSME sector, and social media. When you talk about how media entertainment industry can do a hand holding, and at the same time how the radio, television, and social media can be utilized for hand holding of education. I still recall this great soul who departed at the early part of this year, and he always used to tell, what is the purpose of education? Economic, social, cultural, or personal? When we take in Indian perspective, we always say Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. That means the whole world is one family. The new education policy on 29th of July being given green clearance by the Honorable Prime Minister. Now everybody got to go for holistic reskilling, upskilling, and education and skills to be combined with the outcome that is important. Now during pandemic, there's a confluence of the entire education ecosystem, teachers and youth. You require mental wellness, physical wellness, community wellness, learn, relearn, upskill, and you have to have a lifelong learning. So we are grateful to Cambodia, Singapore, all the educators coming together for us, and of course, other countries. And we are thankful to NRIs. Every Sunday evening, we have got a special program with non-resident Indians. Like last evening also, we had somebody from United States all the way talking to us from Texas. And that was once again dedicated to education, new education policy 2020, and what exactly is the roadmap ahead. We are thankful to sector skill councils. Government of India has got 37 sector skill councils. We are grateful to all of them. We worked very closely. We did about 100 webinars with Wellness Sector Skill Council, Media Entertainment Sector Skill Council, Entrepreneurship Sector Skill Council. We got more than 12,000 teachers from the Middle East on this platform. We're grateful to them. Buddhism and Vedanta. And then we also organized 31 webinars after the Honorable Finance Minister announced that why not we should have 100 more Scenic schools coming up in the PPP mode in India. And we organized 31 webinars exclusively how to set up Scenic schools, how it can build national character, and then reimagining youth skills post-pandemic. On the World Youth Skills Day, 15th of July, we got the AICT chairman, we got the NCVT chairman, and we got Dr. Jagdish N. Sheth also, who was recently honored by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, along with Professor Natarajan. We had done another program on India's Independence Day with 15 Yodhas on 15th August. And then we started holiday and leisure, golf, green tourism. Northeast next to our heart. Why not to take a trip to Northeast part of India? Dekho apna desh, but very specially travel to Northeast. Noida, International Noida Film City, when I talk about, once again, we have to understand, because what kind of infrastructure is coming up in India? How are we taking it up? And what is going to be the economic impacts of that? Jammu and Kashmir, new film policy being released by the Lieutenant Governor. That's on 5th of August. The Northeast India tourism, all the 8 states, stakeholders, we brought together on a common platform. I'm grateful to all of them. It was such a pleasure. We had Northeast India film tourism potential on webinar from 23rd August to 31st August, every evening at 8 p.m. If there can be a global G7, why there can't be an India's G7, where the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Information Broadcasting, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of MSME, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology, they can work in a confluence in one podlock, achieving a common objective. Our chamber is proud. In 1994, we brought India's first finishing school for service industry. It was a great human service. Youth, all power is in you. Teachers, you need hand holding. and our chamber has dedicated last year and this year as well for teacher and youth empowerment. If the nation building has to be done, if the national reconstruction has to be done, if any country's national development agenda has to be taken, and if the youth has to be in the nation building, then the quality education should be focus, and Punah Bharat ko Vishwa Guru banna hai. On World Tourism Day, 27th September, we have come with the vision of e-Gurukul. Finishing school, we have converted into e-Gurukul, free education for those children whose parents have suffered. They have suffered. They are planning to drop out. They don't want to take a formal education. We want to tell you the world has not come to an end. It's just a pandemic. We will overcome that. So what we are doing, no money to be charged from any student and no teacher to be paid any money. Nobody, no money transactions at all. If any corporate house wants to help children or any education ecosystem, give them directly. We are just the facilitator. We do not want to touch your money. It's a knowledge sharing, it's a career path, and it's a corporate linkages, all focused 14 to 24 years of age from the 9th standard till you complete your graduation or master's. And we strongly believe, and that's why we are bringing in e-Gurukul music, dance, games, happiness, humor, fun, creativity, curiosity, storytelling, stimulation, passion, talent exhibiting, stress-free education, technology-based education, vocational and skill-based education, and nature-friendly education. Why education is not relevant to my day-to-day life, my living, whatsoever I'm doing. And please repackage your definition. B2B is no more business to business post-pandemic. Now it should be termed as back to basics of our life. Basic food, basic health, basic education. So ladies and gentlemen, whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's come together. Let's work together. Innovative teachers, innovative youth, and dynamic society. This evening, we are privileged, and join me in extending a very warm welcome to Shri DILIP Mukherjee, who is joining us. He's a great visionary. He is a great civilian soldier, and he is joining us from Meghalaya, and he is brain dancing international author and consultant, and his vision is how to help every educator and every youth, and how through education we can make this world a better place. With these words, we extend a very hearty welcome to you. It's a pleasure to have you with us, and we would request you, sir, all your time now, all your vision. We all want to learn from you. Everybody is joining to pick up the best this evening from you. You can unmute your mic, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. You have spoken with great eminence, eloquence, and elegance, and covered a panorama across the educational spectrum. There are certain realities that we must confront. So my main keynote speech is tomorrow. Thus, deliberately, I am not going to spend time on even one slide. I shall just speak extempore, and I shall be most welcoming if there are any questions forthcoming so that I can answer them on the spot. I will start, though, by saying that no matter what crises have occurred, the most sacred, respected profession in the world is that of teaching and learning. And so I would like to begin by offering salutations and salams, blessings and benedictions to all educators and all parents, especially the mothers who are the first teachers of the child.
Sir, can we increase your volume a little bit, sir? Is it possible? If it's possible.
I'm at the maximum setting.
Okay. Please go ahead.
All right. As I was saying, the first teacher of a child is the mother, and the first wonder of the world is the mind of a child. We have, as children, when a baby is born, a learning miracle. Sadly, in all too many institutions, because I shall speak very frankly and boldly, with no apologies for what I'm saying, because I'm a crusader championing children. Their futures need to be ensured, so I'm fighting for the futures of children to make them future ready. So I shall not be a diplomat. I shall just speak plainly on behalf of them, because love is the only operating system, and I'm speaking from that perspective. So as a child emerges into the world, he or she is a learning miracle. And as they evolve, they are sent to school where discipline dominates. And instead of what you mentioned earlier, Alvin Toffler's proclamation about learn, unlearn, relearn, there's a frozen state happening all too often, and nothing grows in ice. Children stop learning when they stop playing. There's a very important concept that comes from the ancient Greeks, paideia. Paideia is the concept of play, P-A-I-D-I-A. And a similar sounding word is paideia, which is P-A-I-D-E-I-A. The ancient Greeks knew that when you infuse play into learning, you get real learning. Play into education, you get real learning. So what's happened is that when we have play separated from work, we don't have learning taking place, as if they are two different things. But if you imagine a Venn with two circles, one play, the other work, and you merge them, at the sweet spot in the center, you'll get playful work. And that's how teaching should be conducted. So you experience the joy of learning. In the classroom, en route to the boardroom, all the way, the life of the child, all the way to the point of death, it must be one of joy. Adults should be childlike, not childish, but childlike, and they should sense and transmit and propagate that joy in learning. I'm a progeny, biologically, of the great Rabindranath Tagore. And as I have listened to you, and I'm taking into consideration the presence of the audience members, I speak as an internationalist, albeit I'm a very proud Indian, but I've been traveling around the world since I was 1 year old. But the stanza that has influenced me the most in terms of learning and education, with my background being in marine engineering regardless, is Tagore's words from Gitanjali 35, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms toward perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee unto ever widening thought and action. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. This is our Nobel laureate for literature. What a great mind, what a golden soul, what an inspiriting presence. I wish every educational institution, every government policy has this precept as a guiding light for them to take us forward. There was a time, not too long ago in the course of human evolution, where India was the learning capital of the world. Nalanda, Vikramshila, Taxila, Udantapuri, Pushpagiri Vihar, Jagadal Vihar, these are all great centers of learning. People from all over the world came to learn. There's a comment by the Chinese ambassador to America at one point, as I recall, where he said, India conquered China without firing one bullet or sending an army soldier. You're an army man, and not one of you or your predecessors crossed the line to China to bombard them with bullets of learning. You inspired them to learn, right? So often enough, the experience of a child is where the child has an aspiration, and then there's desperation, and then perspiration. They stop there when the final stage should be inspiration. And we should have inspired people inspiring people, and this is not happening. I was paying very close attention to your remarks and your revelations about, let us say, the progress being made or the advances being made in the course of, let's say, the last century, but certainly since independence, and where we have arrived. And there have been so many important luminaries who've graced the stage and platforms of conferences galore. What strikes me, again, I speak with no apology, what strikes me starkly is the absence of something so crucial. They have not included it in their policies and protocols and proclamations. Learning, they have addressed to a certain extent without explaining what it means. Education, they have stated without explaining what it means. But regardless, they have put it there for the auditors. Not one of them has mentioned learning how to learn. If you learn how to learn, you can learn what to learn. It doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, engineer, lawyer, anything. It doesn't matter. I write books extensively on how to learn as the world's most powerful learning systems. I am a student first, a teacher after that. But whilst teaching, I am learning. I enter a classroom or an audience or platform, firstly with love. As I said earlier, love is the only operating system, with fun, with humor, but with a rabid curiosity. I'm burning for learning, and I love to pass this on to others. Children must be seekers of eurekas. When Archimedes first jumped out naked from his bathtub, and then the principal was named after him, he went running through the streets shouting, "Eureka, I found it." Sadly, it is missing in our system. The it is the holy grail of learning. But what they have found is a policy protocol practice called mugging. It is rote learning, they say. Rote is 3/4 of rote is rot. That is not learning. That is not going to make anyone globally competitive. We are living on a wounded planet with a triple pandemic: biological, psychological, financial. The pandemic is not promising to leave us. It takes no vacation, it takes no holidays. It marches forth unapologetically and it claims its victims. But we, at our stages of life for sure, certainly at my stage of life, have to become crusaders on behalf of the next generation, or there's going to be no generation of generations. We are going to become extinct if we do not do something about it. We are at a point in time where the futures of our children have been compromised by our generation and earlier generations to an extent, somewhat due to the Industrial Revolution, otherwise due to rampant pillaging of our natural habitats, where suddenly now sustainability has come into play. And we have to build a consciousness and a conscience whereby we don't say something must be done, but each of us must proclaim, I must do something. When we do that, then we will advance. Today, in our electronic ecosystem, we have E this and E that and E the other and ego. And as I said to you before, we need we go. That is the true democracy. We have to let go of the ego, come together and be united nations of a united nation on a united planet. Otherwise, we are just, what are we doing? Propagating plutocracies, where we are pillaging destinies, not just time. The issue is not managing time, it's managing energy with conscience and integrity. How many of our leaders are not leaders but misleaders? Those of us who are leaders need to be lauded and applauded, but there are not enough of them. We need men and women to rise up there, and leadership, where everything rises and falls in leadership, must be inspired and inculcated from kindergarten onwards. I had an education like that, luckily. Sadly, when I go around the world in different classrooms, often enough, not always, of course, I applaud those teachers who are really worthy, but often enough, I see what is happening as stipulation and not stimulation. So the child is fed up, the child is bored, and the child will grow up into an adult who will have an epitaph where he was always boring, now he's dead boring. We do not want that as our destiny. You should know better than me, and so many of your compatriots should know that there was a time when the role models of educational institutions were our Gurukuls. We need 21st century Gurukuls. I designed this for a great luminary in Mexico not too long ago, where he was inspired by Mother Teresa and Tagore and Santiniketan and what he considered to be true wisdom coming from the ancient roots. And so he had a school with 10,000 children who had no hope, and he gave them hope to move to fulfillment. And so I gave him the idea of the 21st century Gurukul. Now, we have all sorts of protocols and the new education policy and genuine, worthy, honest attempts at trying to raise India to a position of eminence. But what is happening is, I'm speaking for the world. We got World Teachers' Day tomorrow. We are a tiny planet. We're a wounded, fragile, wounded blue dot in the cosmos. In that oceanic space, we must all rise to leadership. Now, India can lead the way. India can resurrect herself as the epicenter of a learning revolution. India can reach out with its arms to the world and say, come to us. We are not better than you. We are with you, and let us learn together. That is the true democracy, not guns and bullets, but brains and wits. We cannot have people who are letting time pass and saying tomorrow, tomorrow. Procrastination is the thief of time. We cannot recycle wasted time. We must do something about this now. Now, the business community, the governance community, none of that can exist without education. However, once an executive enters the business sphere, he or she is charged with an ROI. They consider that to be a return on investment. But my precept is, in schools and colleges and universities and even corporate centers of education, ROI must be return on imagination. Imagine what you can learn when you learn to imagine. We are lacking that. What we've got is rote learning leading to rot. Textbook knowledge is not good enough to be globally competitive. We have a population of around 7.7 billion on our planet, threatening to rise to 8.5 in our lifetime. What are we going to do about it? Each person must be a standard bearer to salvage our lives, livelihoods, and the planet. The strong must pull up the weak. We've got to take them forward. In your new education policy, as an example, there's much good in there. There's much to love and respect in there, but the heart is missing. So there's no heartbeat unless you learn how to learn. The second thing that is missing is the 21st century workplace is unrecognized. They have not considered what it is. They need to consult the scenarios that are approaching us from the future. Otherwise, we are going to become victims of unintended consequences, right? We have many drivers, the new media ecology, extreme longevity, globally connected world, things like that, superstructured organizations. Now just take one of them in respect to people's time, extreme longevity. The 100-year lifespan, as I'm going to say tomorrow, is here to stay. Now, let's say somebody retires at 60 or even 70. He or she's got 3 more decades to live. What are they going to do if they don't know how to learn? If the speed of the world economy and world transformations is faster than your status quo, what are you going to do? Your status quo is going to have no status. So we have to have educators, we have to have teachers, government ministers, policy makers who are forward thinking, who are future ready, but sadly are not right now. So what are we going to do about it? We must come together as a world community. You mentioned well over so many 30 decades of millions, tens of millions and hundreds of millions of Indians abroad, right? We are one brotherhood and sisterhood as a community of nations, as a citizenry of the planet, where hearts and minds, winning hearts and minds, WHAM, must be the mantra, must be the drumbeat that takes us forward. Now, I want to invite any questions that you might have, but just let me say one thing in caution. The people who are sitting comfortably in academia, in halls of power and governance, you see, they feel comfortable when the safety zone and the comfort zone overlap. So if you imagine 2 circles and they overlap, and the safety zone and the comfort zone are together, fine. They will choose to do nothing. But what has really happened? The safety zone and the comfort zone have moved apart. The triple pandemic has done this to us. The gap is massive and it's increasing by the day. If we do nothing, if our leaders do nothing, they are misleaders. And we must come together with a conscience and with a commitment, with definiteness of purpose to make improvements by the minute, every day. I invite questions now, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful opening remarks. Thank you for your perspective. Thank you for your vision. Now, over here, people have written more. Practical knowledge is very important and very well said. True. Welcome. All are requested to share their thoughts. Hearty welcome to all. Namaskar. And then massive contribution, awesome points. Northeast India needs development. Commendable, amazing, great, educative session, interesting, learning insight, great service. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if there are some specific questions you can ask, if anybody has got any question, sometime you need incentive on that as well. Any good question which comes over here, you get some cash awards this evening, because I always believe in some incentives have to be given, then only people come forward. So thereby, I invite questions. Maybe after a little while, sir, we will have some questions. Meanwhile, we can just proceed and we can just go ahead. My main concern today is, tomorrow is World Teachers Day. When I'm talking about teachers, now teachers are at the helm, at the epitome, at the apex, at everything. And the new education policy also is conveying that with the technology revolution, with the technological changes, whatever is coming universally, world over, the children are going to have the new pedagogies, new andragogy, new way of working, and children are so quick. Today, we don't require, the time has gone. Let me just go back with the time once again. There's a blackboard in front. Teacher is standing over there. Teacher is the central force. Whatever is jotted down and whatever is written over there is taken as a gospel truth and the final authority. Slowly and gradually, we have moved ahead of the time. Now knowledge is available in plenty. Rather, my task is becoming difficult. How to filter out meaningful information and meaningful knowledge for myself, because there's so much of bombardment of information all around. I do not know what to pick up, where from to pick up, how much to see. And there's so much knowledge pouring in from different quarters. At the same time, I've got three challenges in India: quantity, quality, and speed. Quantity, because my population is 1.4. When I see quality, I do not want to talk because my head will be hanging in shame somewhere. I don't want to talk about that. Coming to the third part, speed. Yes, when nighttime, when we sleep, the WhatsApps and social media and the apps and the info all together is different. But when I get up in the morning, I find a lot new is being added up, and I got to brush up, I got to update, I got to repackage, I got to regenerate, and I got to refilter what all I have to take it ahead with me. How would you look at this scenario for India? How once again we should regain our lost position?
Was this a question to me?
Sir, I'm sharing the perspective with you, sir.
Yes.
So you got to, I want to give you the lead and you have to take it on further, sir, from here.
Not a problem. Thank you very much. Your perceptiveness is really incredible. Once again, I will refer you to your earlier appreciation of your friend, Alvin Toffler, who very perceptively came up with a triunity of observations where we need to learn, unlearn, and relearn. I would respectfully suggest that we need to perpetrate creative destruction on all our teacher training campuses, because this is not really happening there. Stale pedagogies are being peddled out and they are not helping the teachers or the children. So what's happening is there's a massive lag and a gap created. They need teachers to be reskilled and employed and promoted and respected and looked after and nurtured and nourished through meritocracy. They must be able to prove they can teach. Having a B.Ed or an M.Ed is not good enough. Having a PhD is not good enough. Absolutely not. I do not subscribe to that. You can have a mother in the home with none of those degrees who's a better teacher than the teachers with all the credentials. So there must be a meritocracy established. Now, for example, I'll just take it at a very basic level in terms of literacy. The common cliched mantra has been reading, writing, arithmetic, the 3 R's. The average person whom I have tested for reading, I'm talking even about school principals, CEOs of companies, government ministers in different parts of the world. Their reading speed, as an example, is at the level of functional illiteracy. The United Nations has a benchmark for functional literacy, for example, of 400 words per minute for speed, with at least 70-75% comprehension. Sadly, the average speed is 200 to 220, and with very little comprehension. And too often the case, when they turn the page, they've forgotten most of what they've just read over leaf. So literacy is compromised, speed is compromised, accuracy is compromised, precision, etc. That's on reading. Readers make leaders, and readers are leaders, right? So this is missing. It's not good enough to recognize the alphabet. And it's going to be a crucial skill on paper as well as on pixels, on laptops and phones and things like that. Reading is going to be a crucial skill, and pattern recognition, comprehension, insight generation, ideation from the reading that takes place in partnership with listening and seeing. Then the other thing is memory. There is no learning without memory. But what we have in our systems, common enough, is memorization, not memory. It's mugging. It's word for word. What the author has written in the textbook, you must reproduce that or you won't get the requisite marks in your exam. That is absolute hogwash nonsense, and those guys should be reconstituted, their consciousness. They are performing a criminal act, those who demand this of our students. So there's no original thinking taking place. So memory, there's no learning without memory, but memory through applied imagination. There are memory technologies that the ancient Greeks used, which were fantastic and easy to pick up. There is not a single textbook that I have reviewed in India, and I've reviewed thousands, with a single memory technique. It is just mugging, that's all. Reading, memory. Then information processing. They have to turn pages for ages. So they have to read and reread and reread, and that's exhausting. And it's exhaustive. And they can't hold it in their heads and reproduce it unless they have put in hours and hours and hours of deliberation. That is not the way to do it. There are ways where the brain can be deployed with visual verbal learning. We have only verbal, only textual, minuscule amounts of visual. They think in schools that if they get a smart board, if they get a projector, if they get a laptop, then that is progress. We will be in danger of becoming the tools of our tools if we surrender to that type of thinking. We must remain the master. I speak as an engineer now. If I was the tool of my tool, the engine is going to be sitting on my head. I won't be working it. Now, our children, our teachers, they need to be in command and in control of the learning system. Sadly, again, I say this loud and long for everyone to hear. We are lacking in the requisite learning systems. What we have are syllabuses. What we have are curriculums and things like that. This is stale stuff. It is necessary to a point, but the heart is missing, so there's no beat. The root is missing, so there's no growth, so there's no life. These are dead systems for deadened minds. And our children were born bright and full of life. And look what we are doing to them. We are deadening them and their prospects. No apologies whatsoever. Reading applies also to writing and speaking. Memory, mapping. Visual mapping is the visual verbal aspect of this. I have taken multiple books and put the substance of those books, distillation of them, on one sheet of paper. I read 10 books a week. I wish I was reading 100 books a week. The average CEO of a company is not reading one book a year. The average child is reading only textbooks. The average teacher is reading only exam papers and rereading what they've been reading for the last 20 years. Nothing fresh, nothing new, and I've interviewed so many of them. These are beautiful souls. They are created by God. Why are they wasting lives? their own and those of our children. Every mother, every father desires the best for their child. What are they doing? They're joining the parade where they are forcing the child to get the desired marks or they'll have no life. So they're going to have a lifeless system to give them a life which is going to be lifeless and unrequited. And then what's going to happen? We're going to have an unhappy planet. Let India not only be the learning capital of the world, but also the joy capital of the world, the happiness capital of the world, the pleasure capital of the world, the bliss capital of the world. But let not it be confined just to India. Let the world come together. And once again, I say, discard guns and bullets and replace it with brains and wits. Another point I want to make is creativity and innovation, entrepreneurship missing in schools. Absolutely missing, not a single textbook about it. I write extensively about all this and I can walk the talk easily. Now, the average child, when you teach them how to get ideas, they are better than CEOs. They are so brilliant because their minds are young and fresh. And what are we doing? We are deadening their minds. And yet there should be a subject on creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. We need business schools for kids, where kids understand the concept of money, wealth building, wealth propagation, the strong pulling up the weak, eradication of poverty. People are telling me from governments, lessening of poverty, lowering poverty. I'm saying you're using the wrong vocabulary. Why are you talking about poverty reduction when you should be talking about prosperity creation? Our poor villagers, they are the real India, the heartbeat of India in our different rural villages. They can earn much more. They have brains, they have hearts, souls, spirits. They can be taught how to do this, but they are kept poor. They're kept down below a certain line, except during election time. Then they are bribed into getting votes. Now, is that civilization? It's barbarous. It is a terrible, terrible karmic fate that we are compromised with. We must not surrender to that. And what you have initiated today, Dr. Sharma, I think is crusadorial. It is a crusade against all the negatives I'm pointing out. And I'm not pointing out negatives to get one vote for myself. I don't want any votes. I'm not living here for that. You know very well, I didn't volunteer to speak. You asked me to speak. I'm content being in the shadows. But whilst I speak, I'm fighting for the futures of our children. I'm fighting for women. I'm fighting for the aged. And I'm fighting for civilization to be civilized. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. We are so privileged. We are so humble. We have become more humble after listening to your inner voice, your inner thought, your perspective. Now, you have touched a very important point, very, very important point. Why are we not teaching basic finance to children? Why are we not bringing creativity, innovation, collaboration, all that aspects? Again, another thought which comes to my mind, and I wish to have your vision on that. There is a separate ministry for disaster management, huge budget for that. And I personally feel, coming from the uniform and coming from the armed forces, basic emergency evacuation, all those kind of things, handling disasters, why it should not be integral part of education. Coming second part, my life is based on what I eat. My thought process goes what I put inside my body, whether I'm a positive, whether I'm creative, whether I'm dynamic, whether I'm collaborative, whether I'm a happy person, whether I'm a sadistic, all that comes what I put inside my body, and that body turns with my mind and everything. Children do not know today what is organic vegetables. They do not know what is farming. They do not know what is grown inside the earth and what plants come up over the earth. Why are we teaching which doesn't have relevance with my day-to-day living and my day-to-day life, right from the morning when I get up until I go to sleep? If I can make it relevant, and that's why the title during this pandemic, sir, we have taken only 3 words, and all these 1230 webinars we have dedicated to only 3 words: making education relevant. Making education relevant. Why we don't want to make it relevant? Why are we not taking that? What is the need? What is the child is having a polytechnic certificate, and he is having an electronic diploma, but he doesn't know how to change a socket, how to change a choke, and how to change a bulb in residence. He gives a call to uncle, could you please come? Our electricity is not working. I do not know how to change the tube light. So where are we, sir? Where are we?
Dr. Sharma, once again, I laud and applaud you because you brought up a perspective very close to my heart, deep within my soul. Your army background has not just prepared you, but impelled you to cultivate what I would call an anticipatory intelligence. It is part of strategic thinking, which is not taught in schools, and you're quite right. It needs to be taught because school curricula, school syllabuses are predictive. They are not anticipatory in the sense that unintended consequences can happen. They should be able to read trends, see the future approaching, instead of being confused with that. We're living in what is known as what I would call a VUCANT world, VUCANT. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, novel, and turbulent. This VUCANT world is approaching us at light speed. It's here in many contexts. And what we say, oh, that was not in our budget. It was not in our plans. It was not in our deliberations or our blueprints. If you should know better than me through army military history. I've been reading military history going back 300 years now, particularly, and then 2,500 years. And one of the things that strikes me the most poignantly is plans go haywire at first contact with the enemy. So you can make all the plans possible, but you don't know what the enemy is going to do. And then when that hits you and you get ambushed by the unplanned and the unexpected, you're not prepared for that. And yet we can easily include in our syllabus. And what you correctly said also about the planet, and I would call ecological learning. Ecology and economy are closely related from the root meaning of the words. Ecology started from the home. Economy comes from the home. It started from there, that eco-consciousness. Now, if you merge that with the anticipatory intelligence I'm talking about and confluence that towards sustainability, people, planet, profit, the triunity of these three coming together, we are going to truly have a civilized world where we can survive. But right now, we are on the fast track to making ourselves obsolescent. Now, I don't care if I die right now, but I do care if the children don't have a life and a livelihood. I care desperately that the children who are born and unborn have a destiny that is moving them from hope to fulfillment. If hope is the only thing you have, it's hopeless. Hope is not part of a syllabus. Hope is not a plan. It is just wishful thinking. We need willful doing to transform ourselves from wishful thinking, to move from hope to fulfillment. Otherwise, we will not be successful. We will be successfuls. So very, very correctly said Dr. Sharma, that we need to inculcate in our educational regimes, at home, at school, in society, a cross-fertilization with various sectors of society, so we can have a strategic consciousness to be future ready, to anticipate events, to live in a VUCANT world where we can genuinely come together as one and succeed. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Very kind of you. Very kind of you. With your kind consent, I will take two questions before we close the session and your closing remarks. There's a question from Julie Subba from Imphal, and she's writing, how can learning be made more practical during this online learning system? How can we make learning more practical during this online learning system?
Okay, can I answer that?
Sure, sir.
Okay, thank you for your question, ma'am. Very relevant question. Sadly, my observations of online escapades have been such where it is a mockery of what communication is, never mind what learning is. All it is a transmission taking place in too many cases. It's a transmission of sound, a little bit of imagery, but no learning taking place because there's no absorption, no comprehension, no contemplation, and no engagement. The purposeful engagement is missing. The person who's transmitting online as purportedly the teacher towards the students, that person must know, he or she, how to put information across. What I've noticed often enough, too often, is that they show slides which are crammed with text, which are not possible to read and digest in the short span of time. And even if they had all the time possible, it is not designed to how the brain likes to learn. They know nothing about the brain. Our teachers are not taught about the brain. They leave that to neurosurgeons. This is crazy. I'm writing a book right now on the theme for tomorrow, resuscitating education. I have an entire chapter on the brain basics. I'm not expecting the teacher to operate on the brain, but I'm addressing the teacher to stimulate the brain. Now, what this lady has asked is so moot, because if the formulation of study material, learning material, is conveyed to the students so that they receive them as a challenge, and in their groups, they interact and try to solve those challenges, whether they are problems, whether they are scenarios, whether they are unfamiliar, unexpected, unique encounters, they must be purposefully engaged. The engagement is missing. It's engagement that is taking place. They are in cages, these students. They're just, it is lip service to earn a salary perhaps. It is just passing time. None of that is memorable. Sadly, that is online, but I've seen it live too, as recently as a few days ago. The person reading from the screen. Well, the student can read from the screen too. You're wasting time. I said earlier, you can't recycle wasted time. Make it engaging, make it interactive, make it visual, verbal. And if you can give a project, tell them to take 3D materials and to make something, be inventive. Ask them to explain a principle in their own words, not from a textbook, from fundamentals. So once the fundamentals are solid, the rest is so easy, but they lack the fundamentals, they lack the comprehension. So this lady's question is, in this specific case, how to transmit online so that the teachers are connecting with the students. What the teachers are doing is they're collecting data. They're not connecting the data to anybody. So there's a huge gap, and this is a crime. So those teachers, I don't care what their qualifications are, they need to go back to school and relearn how to teach, then how to learn, and how to combine the teach-learn modus operandi so that it is durable, memorable, and transmissible, so that it is relevant to the futures of the children. Otherwise, the exams are a mockery.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, before we conclude the session and we have your concluding remarks, there's something, a little thought process which I wish to share, and you got to give us the perspective. In the 15th century, nobody was unemployed. Nobody had gone for begging a job to someone. Nobody was looking forward to government employment, that please have me in the government job so that I have not to work very hard. At the same time, there was no beggars. And the entire education ecosystem was moving in a very, very healthy and a systematic way. How do we regain our lost position? Where do we start? How do we start? How to work on to this entire ecosystem on the eve of the World Teachers' Day? Because tomorrow we are going to have your keynote address in the complete perspective. Today, in your closing remarks, how would you like to give a solution? Because whether somebody had come willingly to education ecosystem as a teacher, or there was no other job available, I could not pick up anything. That's why you're teaching profession. And have we really realized that we are playing with somebody's life, somebody's future, somebody's career, somebody's tomorrow, somebody's coming times and the destiny, and whatsoever is ingredients of that entire system? How would you like to take it, sir, with your concluding remarks of today's session?
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Very moot points, of course. I am not focused on solitary victories. as I said, ego to we go. I'm interested in triumphing collectively so that the world, the planet wins, humankind wins. Otherwise, we would have forgotten our humanity if even one child or one human being is left behind. We need to have leadership that is at the level of statesman leadership. We cannot consider, because everything rises and falls in leadership, I repeat, we cannot consider just because a position of authority has been accorded to an individual that that person is a leader. Often enough, they are not. Often enough, they are more interested in their wallet than in the betterment of humankind. I condemn that. I speak openly about it with no fear. But your point is so valid that one of the key themes that I'm working with right now for some time has been that of inclusion. If anybody is left out, they are exclusively cast into the wilderness. We cannot have that. We need to take all sections of society. For example, a few years ago, I suggested to the principal of a very rich school that every child must have a commitment to help a poor child who cannot afford education, so that there's no child left behind in their society. And society by society have a chain reaction taking place where everybody is included. I'm working with very eminent people and learning from them how disabilities are just the norm. They make the people who seem to be disabled very competent, very abled, and for me it is very humbling because I'm always learning from them. So inclusion is a core concept. Now, how to teach in this inclusive scenario? You need something called UDL, Universal Design for Learning. This is what I write my books on also. On any subject, any topic, multiple methodologies of the different things I've referred to. Universal design of learning means universal, not local, not neighborhood learning only. It is all inclusive. This is missing. And this is to answer your question right now. If you want to speak before and then I conclude, it's your call.
I have to convey my deepest gratitudes and thanks to you, because I'm so grateful to Mr. Tyrone that he put me across to you. I would have been deprived on this planet before I close my eyes had I not met you, had I not spoken to you, had I not shared this thought with you. You are so much immersed, submerged, and I do not know, you're so deeply into the entire ecosystem of education. There's so much to learn from you. And if you can really bless us, I would like to have at least once in a month, one session with you, because once in a month, sir, once in a month, because I'm also touching biologically a particular age. And I do not know how many breaths God has given me more, but whatever he has given to me, I have got only one agenda, only one agenda. It doesn't make a difference. And I always tell my countrymen, my brothers, my sisters, my fellow people, and wherever you are, I might have been born anywhere. I might have studied anywhere. But when I went to a particular place where from I earned my first bread, and I wore my uniform, I got my first glittering stars, I owe a lot to that particular soil. And I'm grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister of India that he is at present focusing on northeast part of India, which was deprived for quite some time. We have to bring everybody into the main fold. And I do not know, sir, you're a visionary, you're a very practical, you're into in-depth, you have done so much of work onto education ecosystem. I personally feel if something which can bind all of us together, which can bring people, those are suffering a lot at this point of time, it's only education, education, and education, and equality in education, accessible education, available education, desirable education, need whatever is the of the hour of the education. It has to reach to the last person of my battalion, my company, and my squadron when I talk in uniform terms.
Dr. Sharma, you need to put all this on stone. You need to crystallize it for eternity and transmit it across the planet. You really are a visionary, and you shall be a centenarian. So please do not talk about your morbidity and mortality. That is going to be a great loss to humankind when it happens 28 years from now at the earliest, since you say you're 72. I recall that. Now, I will give my concluding remarks for you, where I would like to stress that the people in positions of authority and eminence and the general citizenry of the world, because we are addressing the world, they need to have a life. But let me interpret for you what I mean by life. I actually practice it, and I'm writing about it extensively. LIFE for me has a deep meaning. L is for leadership, I is for innovation, F is for fellowship, and E is for entrepreneurship. I already said to you, L stands for leadership, where everything rises and falls on leadership. Sadly, that is a rare phenomenon today, because we have leadership and we have misleadership. We certainly do not have leadership. Just because somebody has power and authority does not make that person a leader. I wish to God that person got a conscience and woke up and said, let me truly lead. Let me be humbled by that. Now, I is innovation. I stands for innovation, which comes from the Greek root new, novus, new. How to create new possibilities, new opportunities, etc. And this is not part of our school curriculum. This is really tragic. What I'm suggesting is that creativity, innovation become a part of our school curriculum in every subject. There is a term called blended learning. Blended learning is not taking place, it's just a term. When I ask physics teachers about chemistry, they don't know, and vice versa. When I ask them both about English, they're lost. They're saying we're not English teachers, but they have to do their exams in English. When I check UPSC exam papers, even of toppers, the English is all over the place. It's haywire. Then answer the question in Hindi or your own native language. So English is the language of the 21st century. You got to do something about it. And India was in the lead considerably for decades. Our English was better than those of my English friends, for sure. My English friends in England failed English exams because they couldn't write English properly. And where are we going now? Right? This is a common phenomenon in our press and in our educational regimes right now. So I is innovation, LIF. F is fellowship. Sadly, we have selective fellowship. So birds of a feather flock together, that cliche. And what is happening is that these segregationist mentalities are not uniting us in a brotherhood or sisterhood of humanity. Humankind has become human cruel. We have to move in a way where our humanity coheres together so that we truly have a fellowship across all life on the planet, not just human to human, all of life. E is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship comes from the French word, Jean-Baptiste, where he said that, well, if you break it down, the meaning is entrer comes from entrer, to enter. And preneur has two meanings. One is prendre, to take. You enter and take the opportunities and the possibilities in the market space and do something innovative with it, with a fellowship spirit, so that you lead the charge into the future. The second meaning of entrepreneurship is entrer, to enter, and prendre is broken into two, pre and ne, entrepreneur. Pre is in advance, as you would know from the army, and ne is the nerve cell, the neuron, the brain. So entrepreneur, in advance, you enter the brain of the people you're engaging with and empathize with them, anticipate, co-mingle with them, interact with the teacher and the child and the student. Imagine this spirit in the classroom. My goodness, you're going to have light speed learning at exponential rates. So LIFE is a very, very deep meaning for me. That is the true meaning of life for me. And finally, I will end with a story. The world is not made of atoms and molecules. A short story. It's made of, the world is not made of atoms and molecules. It's made of stories. And this is a story from Africa, you see. Among the northern Natal the tribes there in Southern Africa, the most common greeting, equivalent to hello in English, is the expression sawubona. It literally means I see you. If you are a member of the tribe, you might reply by saying sikhona, I am here. The order of the exchange is important, it's crucial, it's pivotal. Until you see me, I do not exist. It's as if when you see me, you bring me into existence. That is humanity. And in Sanskrit, it is so ham aham asti. And this is our humanity on steroids. It's coming alive. Then this meaning implicit in the language, right, is part of the spirit of Ubuntu, a frame of mind prevalent among people in Africa below the Sahara. And we call them primitive, and we call them uneducated and uncivilized. The word Ubuntu stems from the folk saying, Umuntu ngumuntu nagabantu, which from Zulu literally translates, a person is a person because of other people. If you grew up with this perspective, your identity is based upon the fact that you are seen, that the people around you respect and acknowledge you as a person. This is inclusion. Question for us, how many children are not seen? How many are left behind in the darkness? How many parents are forgotten? Look what happened during the recent pandemic. Delhi, how many were left to die and deoxygenated? How many were deprived? How many suffered, and suffering only became a word, not a phenomenon? I leave you with love and with hope and spirit that we move from hope to fulfillment for a better world. And I honestly say that, sir, thank you for calling me on this platform. I didn't volunteer. I really didn't want to speak. I don't want to be in prominence. I don't care to be famous, but I leave with love and blessings for all of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We become more humble, and my deepest gratitude and thanks to you for having spared your time, sharing your vision, your wisdom, and whatever cerebrum reservoir you have collected. I think we have just got the iota of that today. I would be rather, waiting whole night today to have you tomorrow once again. And you have to make, with folding hands from a soldier, once in a month, 1 hour, you have to dedicate to our chamber to reach the global fraternity and the global humanity. Once in a month, one hour we'll take from you. I'll make a request to Mr. Tyrone also. I'm so blessed that Mr. Tyrone put me across to you. You were very kind to take my call, to speak to me, and to agree to come at such a short notice. We become more humble. Thank you very much for your blessings. Thank you very much for your patronage. Thank you very much for sparing your most valuable time and sharing your vision, your thoughts, your pragmatic and practical road map for humanity through life, leadership, innovation,